this plays into what I think about
Hockey.
White Star Gun with Kizaru, is that Luffy put literally everything he had into that one blow. And yes, it put Kizaru on his ass, but it also put Luffy on his ass.
Cole, how do you feel about the whole Kizaru and Luffy thing? Say your piece.
Outstanding.
Well, here's the thing: if Saturn's power affected like Kizaru and Luffy, right? It's because Kizaru's at the moment he got knocked down. It's like in boxing, you get a knockdown.
Yep.
So his HP bar, he was stunned. He needs to recover. So like probably he's like in a more vulnerable place to be affected by Saturn's power. And then on the opposite end, Luffy, it's the opposite for him. For him, it's not HP that his issue. His health is fine. He didn't get taken out or knocked out due to damage.
Stamina.
It's just stamina. So if you think about it in a video game, you have your HP bar and your stamina bar. So for Luffy, it's the opposite. He's fine. He can still tank plenty more attacks. He's just tired.
At least so far. I think that, like, because I would actually argue that, like, at the end of Wild Country, when he beat Kaido, it was a bit weird because he didn't turn to Old Man then. I don't know why, but whatever. To me, the comparison was wrestling. If you have someone lose a match, or let's say they get pinned, 3 count, 1, 2, 3, they're done. But if someone gets a ring out and then for 10 seconds, that's kind of like Luffy Kizaru here, where Luffy is out of the ring for 10 seconds, but Kizaru actually got pinned. 1, 2, 3, he's done. He literally froze for, like, you know, God knows how long. And I guess the problem I have too is that Kizaru, when you kind of run through it play by play, he got 2 shots on Luffy, potentially 3. I think that folks in the last chapter that before the Tasmanian Devil spin, he hit Luffy with the laser. I'm not too sure exactly. So like the idea is that Luffy had to take a lot of extra damage, whereas Kizaru, as far as we can tell, just took the 1 shot from Luffy. And he's already like that with the Star Gun. And the Star Gun's not even supposed to attack, not even close. And obviously Luffy is down and out, but because of a stamina depletion issue, you could argue in principle he should be able to bounce back if he wanted to, but I think for plot purposes, he's gonna just stay down and kind of just be tapped out because you have to have Kuma save Bonnie, you have to have the robot do their thing, all that stuff. All right, but I think it's pretty obvious where it's like, yeah, like Luffy is just he did what he thought to do.
Here's the issue, and this is gonna wrap it all up in a nice little bow. We just saw someone weaker than Shanks one-tap someone stronger than Kid. So the gulf between Admirals and Yonko just increased like tenfold.
Okay, but here's a legitimate push to that.
You can fit an entire new timeline in between these two tiers now.
No, I don't.
Here's a legitimate pushback to that, and it's so Shanks took Kid out. Shanks was not gassed. Shanks wasn't even breathing heavy. It was just a big hit. He took Kid out. You can say what you want, off guard, whatever, fine. This hit from Luffy drained Luffy, like Miz said, to 0. Yeah. He is on his ass. So this was like 110% from Luffy to do what it did to Kizaru, whereas with Shanks, whatever level it was from Shanks, it obviously did not drain Shanks' stamina.
I'm just gonna look at it in football terms. If they fight again, Luffy wins 10 out of 10 times. It's not a rivalry if the other team can't win. At this point in time, the Admirals are no longer threats to the Straw Hats because Luffy exists.
But Twilight, if Saturn's not there, what happens? Like, who gets up first wins the fight, right? Like Kizaru's still talking, Luffy's done. Like, unless he can repump his heart, like,
that doesn't matter
not there?
because King got up before Zoro did, if you want to go by that logic.
Well, the scaling is about what I expected it to be. I have Kaido.
Yeah, this is what I expect Luffy to be.
I still have Kaido, fresh Kaido over Luffy because Luffy doesn't have enough stamina to beat. We know that these last 2 chapters have proven that Luffy does not have enough stamina to put down a fresh HP, fresh stamina Kaido.
Everyone is proclaiming that Luffy is the weakest Yonko, but he is a Yonko. But Luffy is the weakest Yonko. If Luffy is the weakest Yonko and he can one-tap an Admiral, every Yonko can one-tap an Admiral.
But he didn't fully one-tap him, though.
I will say, real quick...
Say that it was like a straight-up
Go ahead.
One more real quick thing. This attack from Luffy, 2 points. This attack from Luffy is very likely stronger than any attack he used against Kaido, but Bajrang.
Sure.
Because he went muscle, he wound up, he extra hockeyed his arm. That looked like there are flames coming off his arm. Cole, there's your flames.
Yeah, I know.
When he uses the White Star. So all that. It's a named attack. It's a souped up version of the attacks he used against Kaido.
Right. Named attack.
And Luffy is now stronger than he was when he fought Kaido.
I think we have to kind of, like, my full counter to some of this information is that the idea of the stamina is an issue with Luffy, but it wasn't the attack itself drained all of his stamina per se. It was like the entire fight process.
Over time, exactly.
Like like the entire fight, he was trying to stall and fight against Kizaru. Kizaru was, it is what it was. He was avoiding Luffy. Luffy had to go chase him down. Where's Kizaru going? And then the entire thing. So like if Luffy versus Kizaru happens, where they stand their ground, Florida style 1v1, we go at it, right? Like it's the Alligator versus Rick Ross pizza battle. Right. Okay, cool. That's gonna be a whole different fight in terms of how the stamina outlook.
I'm gonna give you two things that's gonna put Luffy on a whole nother level in your mind when you think about it.
Go ahead.
Number one, when he gets better stamina, because that's only a problem for him. Like other Yonkos don't really have that stamina issue. Like Shanks doesn't, Kaido doesn't, Big Mom doesn't. But when it comes to durability and endurance, Luffy, Big Mom, and Kaido are in the lead. Shanks has obviously less because he's more of a human. But obviously, he has other things to compensate for that. He has like future sight and everything.
The anime is about to animate Green Bull like shriveling in cowardice.
Bro, he's gonna be nasty, right? But
it's Green Bull. Nasty's not in his vocabulary.
Bro, the Admirals are fine, bro. Jesus Christ.
They're not.
They are.
We're following the Straw Hats. The Straw Hats are above Admirals.
The Straw. Okay, so remember the Straw Hats are going to. The Straw Hats are ultimately going to be the greatest pirate crew in history. We're in the final saga. Okay, there has to be guys that are going to be comparable to like literally a Prime Rayleigh in this crew. Like several guys. You argue Jinbei, Sanji, Zoro, all three of them. So the idea that these guys are going to be like cowering in front of Admirals, like no, of course not. I mean, we already saw Wild Country. When Wild Country, the squad was right there, ready to pull on Greenville. Like they were confident.
They were ready.
Jinbei, Sanji, Zoro were confident. And then when Yamato joins the crew again, it's like, we extra confident right now. We good to go.
Luffy sensed Kizaru here,
so
he was a little,
So my point about the Admirals not mattering, they no longer matter.
They matter.
No. It's not that they don't matter.
How are we stronger than them?
Here's the thing, right? Admirals ended up being roughly exactly where I believed them to be. But here's the thing. I already had predicted the world government was going to be a larger force than we knew. And I was right. We got Holy Knights revealed. Gorosei ended up being strong, which I predicted. So, like, the thing is, if either the Admirals would have had to have been like this insane level beyond Yonkos, or there has to be this massive force where you can't have everybody being too strong or the whole force of the world government is too powerful. Because I mean, if you think about it, you put everything together, Cypher Pole, the Gorosei, which I believe
they're all weaker than one Yonko crew.
I believe all the Gorosei are at least like Admiral level or higher. I think that 4 Yonko crews combined would struggle and probably not be able to defeat the entire world government as a whole if they're all fighting.
That makes no sense based on
How about this?
One Yonko crew should be able to beat the entirety of the world government at this point.
How about this?
Crazy.
One Yonko crew, I'm assuming, based on what people are saying, is kind of just not enough to take down the world government. I think the world government is banking on the fact that the Yonkos will never team up. I think that's why they were so pressed when Shanks and Whitebeard tried to meet up. That's why they were pressed when they heard that Big Mom and Kaido were going to try and meet up, because they know that if 2 Yonko crews and all the King's men come at them, that might be an issue. They were sweating a little bit too much when they brought up the fact that certain great powers were meeting, and I think that's the reason why.
All this chapter does for me is that all it does is just answer the fact that one admiral cannot defeat a Yonko in a one-on-one combat. Now,
bro, we've been saying this for years. Like, oh my god.
What about 2?
Well, here's the thing: we've gone beyond that now. We've gone beyond that now. Now it's proven that one Yonko can one-tap an admiral. Like, it's not even like they can fight. There's not even a fight anymore.
It depends on the match.
I don't know where you got that from.
We went from Brago saying that there was an extreme diff, to Cole saying that maybe it was a mid to low diff, to now it's a neg diff of a Yonko versus an Admiral.
Remember,
you're saying that. Literally, only you were saying that, Twilight.
Remember what I said before about how like not all the Yonko were created equally. There's a reason why people had people like Big Mom or under Kaido, or people like, let's say, Prime Whitebeard over Kaido. Like, it just depends on how you want to view the Yonko. And I think that when you kind of have someone like Whitebeard, when he finally gets his hands on a Kainu, and then he damn near gets two-pieced, it set a precedent where it's like, holy shit. Like, even though the Yonko, like, even though he was old, he was tired, he was having a heart attack, this guy is kind of freaking nuts. And once he gets his paws on you, it's kind of like, holy shit, this guy is scary. He was I'd argue, he was the strongest guy in the entire Marine Ford. Now, people want to argue he's not. Fair enough, fine. But even still, I'd argue, given what his own statements say, given his mannerisms, it kind of indicates that he's the weakest Yonko at that point in time. People may want to, so, okay, how do you want to take, they want to take that. But is it necessarily a bad thing for, let's say, Luffy to not necessarily knock out, but he has Kizaru stun lock, where he can't get up right now because his legs are his legs are shaking, his legs are wild, but he can't really do much right now. Okay, but at the same time, this was a potentially, as folks saying, the second best hit he gave. We've seen him in Gear 5. Is it reasonable to say that he can be stun locked for a bit, at least for let's say the duration of whole situation?
I would say yes.
Kizaru is just prone for one turn.
I would say that Admirals have...
Yes.
I have said this before. Admirals are just part of the package of the entire world government. And also, I think that people are shitting on Kizaru too much because if most people in the verse take that, they're dead on the spot. They're dead on the spot. Most people in the verse, even top combatants, they take that, they're dead on the spot. Kizaru's not even unconscious.
I'm really curious. I'm just really curious. Twilight, do you think that Zoro has Kizaru 1v1?
Right now?
Yes.
Heck no.
Okay. How far do you think he is from Kizaru?
Depends on what happens still with this Rob Lucci fight.
Yeah, because why is he struggling with Rob Lucci?
For me, I think Zoro pushes Kizaru to maybe mid or high.
So they're still threatening to the Strap Pirates at large.
Because I said last chapter that Kizaru being able to do this to Luffy even a little bit at least showed that there's still a gap between First Commanders and Admirals. The problem is that Luffy one-tapping Kizaru increased the gap further from Admirals to Yonko. It's a pull and push thing. It's that Kizaru did enough to prove that there's multiple agendas going on here at once when it comes to people power scaling, because obviously you had a lot of people, you were even guilty of this yourself a little bit, Cole, where we weren't entirely sure, because you would look at Fujitora and Dressrosa and stuff like that, and then even Green Bull kind of pushed it a little further in the other direction where, all right, if Admirals are not close to Yonko, then are they closer to First Commanders? And there was definitely this give and take where some people were starting to move First Commanders up closer towards Admirals. Some people were starting to pull Admirals down a little closer to Commanders. There was definitely a moment where people were starting to be on this whole Admirals, First Commanders at the same level. There was definitely well, no, I'm saying that there was a time where there was definitely a little bit more of a conversation of where are commanders as opposed to First Commanders. You went into it a little bit. I don't think you went full force, but there were definitely other people in the community who were Admirals and First Commanders may be the one thing I said is that there are some people I think that are among the First Commanders that could be, and I compare them to Green Bull and Fujitora, not necessarily Kizaru. Kizaru I thought was a bit different because I put him on a tier. No, not a tier. I put him ahead of Green Bull Fujitora because of the tenure that he had. Well, for your original question though, him fighting Luffy,
yes,
him getting tapped the way he did doesn't look good. But the fact that Luffy had to do what he did for Kizaru, at least still shows that there is now a nice gap between First Commanders and Admirals. The problem is that Luffy then extended the gap between Admirals and Yonko to a much crazier degree.
Is that a problem though? Is that really a problem?
It's a problem in the sense that we're going to be following Luffy the rest of the story. He is the main character. So, able for things to matter in terms of threat level, they have to somehow be threatening to Luffy. You can't just threaten part. You can't just threaten.
Well,
what I mean is, hold on. You can't just threaten part. You can't just threaten part of the Straw Hats and say that you're a threat. Because by that measure, Doflamingo is still a threat to the Straw Hats. Because Doflamingo is 1,000% still piecing out people like Usopp, Chopper, and Nami. And it's
hold on, but we just talked about before earlier in the stream where we talked about how even though Luffy did this against Kizaru and so on, we still have Kaido over Luffy. I think for the most part, I think that's what most of us have.
Absolutely.
And Luffy still has ways to go to reach. I think you can argue Kaido's level.
Yeah, that's fine. If the point still is that Luffy is one of the weaker Yonko, he's not Kaido, he's not Shanks, and he's equal to Big Mom, then it stands to reason that Big Mom, Kaido, and Shanks, in different ways, can do the exact same thing to Kizaru in one hit. The problem is that Oda waited so long to use these characters who have been in the story for so long. We've been saying this for how many years now it would be nice to see Admirals get W's in the post time skip And now that we're finally seeing them, it's almost like they've come back too late.
People forget that this is a story about pirates. We follow the Strat pirates on their battles of supremacy against other pirates. The other characters that are in the show, like the Marines and Admirals, they're like suppressionary forces and control forces, but they're not in our way per se to be, especially when the New World is like, we're in the New World and we're told immediately, this is where the Yonko rule. The Marines and the Admirals, they're not necessarily going to be the premium force that we have to deal with. It's going to be the Yonko that we fight for supremacy against.
Then why give the Navy? Then why has Oda given the Navy so much clout over the last 15 years for them to no longer matter when we finally get to them?
Where has the Navy ever proven itself to be competent once outside of filler? Like the whole Admiral, I can't stand. I mean, it's fun, but like there's so much lore in this chapter that the fact that we're dwelling on like some power scaling is just unreal to me. Because like we're at a point now where like, for example, last week we start power scaling Saturn because he lets Bonnie stab him, where that's an obvious story beat for Saturn to then be like, stab me if you want, obviously. But people were going off being like, Saturn the rest of the Corsair, Yonko level feats. Like what? Where do you get that? It's just all this gas. People have these agendas, and
I didn't say anything about the.
It's wrong.
I literally haven't said anything.
Man. They're like not the main part of the issue. Sorry for cutting you off, by the way. But like they're not a clear part of the story at this moment. Clearly, we're just in a different dimension.
The Admirals have been hyped. Every time they were introduced, they destroyed the crew, okay? There's a lot of hype with the Admirals, but Oda chose in the New World to focus on the Yonko crews, and the Admirals aren't really playing parts in the New World. We didn't see a lot of them. Now has come the time for them to have focus. We got an Aokiji arc with Garp. We're getting the Kizaru focus with him and Vegapunk. Like, this is the way Oda's doing it, but to be fair, Luffy is a Yonko now. We saw Whitebeard 2-tap Akainu. This isn't the first time we've seen a Yonko hit an Admiral like that and they be affected. And to be fair, Akainu was still talking after he got hit. It's similar to Kizaru. Like, Kizaru's still talking. He kind of lost, but this isn't the first time we've seen this happen.
But here's the thing, with like Gorosei and Emu, there was no place for them to come into the story yet. Oda had pre-planned them 100%. I know for a fact Oda had pre-planned them as fighters, the whole shebang. But they were mysterious figures. It wasn't their time to take the stage. The story had to develop to a certain point.
Okay, Cole, you ever notice when Saint J tried to murder Luffy when he tried to stab him with the little tentacle or whatever it is?
The talon, yeah.
Damn nail.
Yeah, his claw.
Yeah, the talon. Yeah, the claw like he on liar, right? You notice when he did that and Frankie hit Luffy, right? You ever notice Luffy started bleeding?
Yeah.
This is just me. I ain't heard nobody say this. I watch a couple videos.
I think somebody did earlier, but we don't really know why.
Just talking about before.
Memes, gags.
No. To me, I'm starting to think the real drawback of Luffy's Gear 5, his awakening when it's turned on and actually run out of juice, is his body is not rubber anymore. And that's why somebody like Frankie, without armor and hockey, can actually make him bleed by punching him. I'm just saying.
I have a counter thought to that. If we want to analyze way too deep on this shit, is that if Luffy actually did take the hit to the face by the laser beam, he could have already been bleeding, and Frankie just kind of knocked blood off his face when he hit him.
Let me go, because I heard the craziest shit just now. Because I know, Sil, you did not say that the Admirals pose, or the Navy pose, no power scaling threat, but they pose story threat, as if these two don't correlate. Because how can they pose story threat if they're not?
No. That's not what I said.
Insanity, what I just heard.
I mean, I can see where you would get that, but I'm essentially saying, like, we're literally still kind of stuck scaling Marineford feats, because we straight up just, like, don't have enough information to go off of.
I literally didn't even talk about Marineford.
You guys are making too much excuses for Oda, bro. Like, this is insane.
I give Oda no excuses.
What?
I criticize him.
I'm just saying that this isn't the Admiral's time right now. That's not where the focus is.
It's never going to be.
I can understand Twilight's frustration, because I think the idea is that we want the Marines to be, actual viable threats to the company. But at the same time, it's like
at least once in the post time skip.
However, I mean, in the post time skip, they had a runaway from Fujitora. Fujitora was a viable threat to them, they had to literally escape, flee the entire island. I mean, he let them go ultimately, but at the same time, you just can't deny that, hey, like, you know, Fujitora was gonna probably beat all of them if not for their attempts to run. Yeah, if he wasn't such a nice guy, he would have stopped them, of course.
It wasn't comparable to them when they were on Marineford. Like, you say Fujitora was a threat, but was he representing the threat that they had at Marineford?
Okay, so remember,
wait,
hold on. So this is what I think, but this is the problem, and this is why you're kind of forgetting. I think this is why Still is kind of getting at here. It's because the narrative had us focus on Marineford. We had to save Ace, and the Marines were in our way of saving Ace. Right now, the narrative is not to try and beat Kizaru, it's to escape Egghead Island. That's the narrative. We have to escape the island and get the fuck out of here. And the whole point here is that Kizaru is basically trying to stop us, but ultimately, our end game here is like Big Mom's situation. Like, Big Mom was like the baddest bitch on Whole Cake Island. We have to escape and leave. We have to get the fuck out. We have to save the Vegapunks and get the fuck out of here. But let's say in the future, when the Marines are actually going to be our focused target opponents, now we're here. Now let's scrap. Bring it. And so the narrative matters in that situation there.
All right, we had a huge problem in that statement. Do you know why?
Why?
Luffy could not beat Big Mom, and we knew that. We now know that Luffy can beat Kizaru. So why, when they're the focus, would they matter?
It matters because we know that this is an escort mission. If you're hostage or if your target dies, you failed the mission. You gotta start the level over again, dog. We have to save Vegapunk. That's the mission. That's why Luffy's like, yo, I'm doing my job trying to hold you off to killing Vegapunk.
The mission was similar in Whole Cake, though.
Yeah, the narrative was that
and we got Sanji and we escaped.
Let me retranslate for Darth what he was meant. The context of these two events are similar, but there's a giant difference. Right now, we're having to save Vegapunk from Kizaru and Saturn. And even according to you, you have Luffy still stronger than Kizaru and Saturn. When we were in Whole Cake having to save Sanji...
I don't know about Saturn.
Oh, you're changing your mind about that one
now?
No,
I said I don't know. Because who's stronger, Kizaru or Saturn? I'm like, I don't know. I want to see Kizaru still, but we'll have to wait and see.
I'm pretty sure last stream you said that you saw the Gore say under Admirals, but we'll get to that. But in Whole Cake, we had to save Sanji and a couple other people too. There was definitely some other stuff going on, obviously, in Whole Cake.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, the big bad trying to stop us from doing anything was Big Mom. And at that point, it was very, very well established that Luffy was not stopping Big Mom.
He had no chance.
Stopping Big Mom was never on the table.
Disagreeing with that.
Stopping Big Mom was never on the table, but according to many people who have read the last two chapters, stopping Kizaru is already eaten. Stopping Saturn is still on the table.
Can I concede on one point?
Luffy's not in a condition to fight right now. He's down.
All right, so
you're gonna. So you say that, but I remember last chapter, everyone's saying that Luffy can just get back up because he can restart his heart, and everyone just gave Luffy that automatically because he did it versus Kaido.
Not everyone, Twilight. Not everyone.
I will concede that I am probably almost as pressed as Twilight for different reasons. Because we are talking about power scaling that's going to be invalidated by the next chapter. All of this will not matter. And we just got the biggest lore drop that we have ever got in like 10 years, and we are power scaling?
Damn right.
We do, so
why are we not power scaling Garland?
Still, you say that, but I was.
That. Let's power scale Garland. Let's power scale Kuma's dad.
There's
so much we haven't talked about, and we're stuck on this non-issue.
Still, two things. How dare you steal the argument that I said Tuesday when this whole shit dropped and we were in the VC with you? I said this shit originally when I said I hate that people in One Piece spoilers only want to talk about Kizaru getting beaten and not about what's gonna.
And here you are talking about it.
Okay.
Well, that's because at the beginning of this stream, everyone was talking about all the Kuma stuff for the first like hour and a half, and then we went, all right, now let's talk about Kizaru. We went in the opposite direction.
We're gonna move on to something fun because this is
Pretty please.
Jesus.
Please.
See you. Bye bye.